Here we go. What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday and happy Columbus Day to those who celebrate today and got lucky enough to have the day off. We appreciate everybody for tuning in to another show, and we're once again here with another week, heading into week number 8 of the season, and pretty much now at the midway point of this college football season, specifically here in SEC country. But we had a pretty good slate in week number 7. The week 8 slate is absolutely loaded. A couple of weeks ago, we had some big time games this week. We definitely have a lot more ranked matchups than we did last week. We had some rivalry games last week that resulted in some crazy endings. So, Wade, I know that you got to be involved in one of them between LSU and South Carolina. So, once we get to that game, I'll let you talk about the atmosphere, how it went. But how was your weekend?
Yeah, like you said, went to the South Carolina game. We'll talk about that one in our recap. But had a good time showing some of my high school buddies what LSU's all about, and they seem to like it. You know, they took the loss like a champ. So kudos to Mikey and Walker for coming down here. If y'all are watching this.
Yeah, it's always a good time to bring some new faces in one of the best stadiums in college football. We will have a guest picker later on the show. The thumbnail will give you a hint. Yes, it is a Mississippi State fan. We've been having a lot of LSU representation on the show, so we just need to expand our horizons on our guest pickers. So keep that in mind. So we'll have that later in the show. We already had one guest picker, so we're going to continue to have guest pickers as we have these big slates. I tried to get on a Penn State fan, but he wasn't available tonight.
Not a good week for that, right?
Yeah, not a good week for that. What's been going on? But we'll go ahead and get into, before we get into our recap, if you have any questions pertaining to your favorite team or what happened in week number 7 in both the SEC and the college football landscape, feel free to leave us a comment in the comment section down below, and we will get to it after the conclusion of our hot topic segment. So like I mentioned, we will get into our top 4 games of the week. And to be honest with you, we had even more games to really talk about, but we just had to get down to our top 4 games. And we're starting with our 11 a.m. game, which happened on Saturday. Number 8, Alabama at number 14, Missouri. And Alabama wins this one 27-24. And really the story of this one was Ty Simpson just continuing to be a dominant quarterback in the conference and maybe even make his mark in the Heisman Trophy race. But these were 2 really talented defenses that got after each other. And to be honest with you, I thought that it was going to be all Missouri after that first drive. Like, Missouri had no problem. Bo Pribula was pretty much like 5 for 7 on his first drive. You saw a little bit of Amon Hardy. And just like that, Missouri was up 7-0. Then quickly Alabama was able to respond. They were end up going 17-7. So at some points, it felt like Alabama had their opportunities to really put this one away, especially in the second half. But Missouri, got to give credit to them. They were able to fight back. But nonetheless, though, Alabama was able to get a key and crucial road victory because the schedule coming up for Alabama, they already had Georgia, and then they have Tennessee coming up. They'll have a couple of weeks against LSU. That'll be a home game. So some big games more coming up for Alabama. But really, outside of week number 1, I think that this Alabama team has definitely looked how that they thought they would, because I picked this team to win the preseason SEC title. In Missouri, I think Bo Pribula, not one of his best games, just too many mistakes, especially like that opportunity. Like, he had so many wide open receivers on that last interception. You saw that one receiver acting like A.J. Brown on the Eagles. But what were your overall thoughts on this one? I know that we were pretty high on Missouri. We were curious to see how they looked against a team going up against Alabama. So what are overall takeaways from this game?
I think Missouri was, so close in this one. Like you said, they came out with a good attack, and Ty Simpson settled in, made some big time plays. But Missouri stuck around. I thought overall the quarterback play was good from Pribula. He did make a mistake at the end. and I think he had another pick earlier in the game. So, I think they were just a play or two away, as the score indicates. Ahmad Hardy looked human against this defense. They didn't completely shut him out, but it was definitely a far cry from what we've seen from him. I think that's just a testament to this Alabama defense. I mean, this is the unit that we thought we were going to see, and we've seen it 2 weeks in a row now against ranked opponents. So I think the tide's kind of heating up.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. Both teams have some big time matchups. Missouri has to go on the road to Auburn. Alabama will host Tennessee in the third Saturday in October. So big games coming up for both these teams. We will move on to our afternoon slate here in the conference. Number 6, Oklahoma versus Texas, the Red River rivalry. Try to say that 5 times fast. Wins this one 23-6. And to be honest with you, Vegas was telling you all you needed to know. Texas was surprisingly a 2.5-point favorite entering this game. We did see John Mateer, Dr. Shin worked his magic. And 17 days later after the surgery, we did see John Mateer. And he looked nothing like we saw what John Mateer looked like before that surgery. And got to give credit to Texas defense. They really responded well after really getting gashed on the run, especially by Jadon Ball of Florida. But this Texas team and Arch Manning, definitely his best game of the season so far. He had that early interception, but really outside of that, and then also Quintrivion Weisger. Whenever Weisger is healthy, I believe that this Texas offense is definitely not really one of the best in the SEC, but they could definitely show some strides. But this Texas defense definitely deserves all the praise. Texas did have that punt return for a touchdown to pretty much seal it, to get it to 23-6, but really Oklahoma couldn't really move the football effectively. I know the guy that you took, Torrey Blaylock, had a couple of yards, but this was all Texas. And Texas, over the past couple of years, have dominated this rivalry game. This is now back-to-back years. So Texas, is Texas, not going to say that they back, but are you starting, I know this is 1 week, but how does this win affect Texas and your, outcome on Texas moving forward? Because I know in the preseason you were kind of iffy on the Longhorns.
Yeah, they're starting to look like the team that we thought they could be. I mean, Manning showed some dual threat capabilities. The stats weren't, I guess, overwhelming, but I think he showed some confidence, and I think he played well to the game script. Didn't need to do a ton, but he made plays when it mattered. So. Yeah, if you're Texas, you got to take it and run with it. You got a pretty favorable matchup with Kentucky coming up, so maybe this is the start of things for them. But for Oklahoma, I mean, this could be the start of something really, really bad. I think they rushed back Mateer from an injury. Honestly, I think they could have probably developed a scheme with Hawkins to back up and tried to win this game because now you're kind of in a must-win situation with a very hard schedule coming up. Mateer might not be healthy. He might have delayed his ability to get healthy in doing so. And you just told the whole world you have no confidence in your backup quarterback because you didn't start him. So this could be a team that we see fall off a cliff. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but, I mean, woof. They only score 6 points. I don't have a lot of confidence.
Yeah, whenever they brought up that schedule and I was looking at the game, I was like, oh my gosh, how are they going to survive this and find a way to make the playoff, especially after losing this one? This was definitely a much needed one for Oklahoma. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not going to, go too far, but I think that this could be an Oklahoma team where it was highly ranked, but could fall off a cliff over the next couple of weeks because it is an absolute gauntlet. Texas, not going to say they have an easy one next this coming week, but that's a sleepy game coming up in Lexington, Kentucky. So Texas, a big win, though, in Dallas. Let's move on to the next one, the oldest, Deep South, oldest rivalry game between number 10 Georgia and Auburn. And let me tell you, I was very impressed with the first half Auburn, not too much about the second half Auburn. Auburn at one point was up 10-0, and they could have went up 17-0, but Jackson Arnold fumbled. They had that whole controversy once again. Did he fumble? Was it, a touchback? Honestly, they got it wrong anyways because if it was a fumble, Georgia clearly picked it up and ran it back for a touchdown. But nonetheless, it really didn't matter because Georgia in the second half absolutely shut down Auburn. I mean, I know we're going to get into SEC fantasy. I was looking at like Auburn had like 250 yards total in the first half. I was like, oh gosh, here we go again. This is going to be another Georgia giving up 400 points. And then the second half, Auburn couldn't move the football whatsoever. It was just typical Auburn over the past couple of weeks, especially against Oklahoma and what we saw on the road against Texas A&M. But Georgia was able to bounce back after a very slow start. I mean, it just feels like Georgia gets off to these slow starts, but this time they were able to bounce back, make some second half adjustments. And that fumble pretty much changed the script a bit. If Auburn went up 17-0, maybe it went a different way. We would be talking about something different. But Georgia gets the big time road win. So what are your overall takeaways on both for the half? Because this was definitely a game, 2 games in one. It felt like.
Yeah, we were following it when we were at the game. My buddy, he kind of was. He's more of a Georgia fan than a South Carolina fan. So he was keeping tabs on it. He was a little nervous, but it seems like Georgia just kind of asserted themselves in the second half. You did have the controversy on Kirby Smart potentially calling a timeout, not calling a timeout in a critical situation. I went back and watched that, and I got to say, I think he wasn't claiming that he was clapping and not calling a timeout. I think he was saying that Auburn was clapping on the line. I don't know. Either way, I mean, Auburn fans are going to take that and run with it. You know it. But, man, this Auburn team just looks like they always do. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's Bo Nix, Peyton Thorne, whoever, Jackson Arnold. I mean, I just think that this team just is what it is at this point. I mean, I don't know if it's a scheme thing. I don't know if it's a talent thing, but, like, they can't seem to find a quarterback that can push the ball down the field. Oh, and the running back just quit the team, Damari Alston.
So. Oh, that's nice. Honestly, Auburn quit, especially after that fumble. It's like that team just gave up after that play. It's like the fire that they had in the first 2 quarters wasn't there after that. So, yeah, we'll see if Auburn can bounce back. They got a big one against a very talented Missouri team. I believe Georgia, hosts Ole Miss. Sorry, I thought that they were on the bye, but they got a big-time test against the Rebels at home. So that would be a big one coming up for them. Georgia, I mean, we talk about Oklahoma. Georgia over the past couple of weeks have really had a gauntlet, and the gauntlet continues this week against Ole Miss. Now let's get into another 20-10 game. There's a lot of 20-10 games here in the SEC this season so far. And LSU's been involved in 2 of them so far. South Carolina at number 11, LSU 20-10. Wade, you're at this game, so I'll let you give your takes first, and I'll go ahead.
Yeah, definitely a hot start for LSU, forcing the fumble. And, they did get a field goal on that, but it kind of was a sign of what was to come, where LSU really dominated defensively, set the offense up to be in good situations, but the offense couldn't capitalize. It made a lot of good plays to get down in the red zone, but just couldn't finish drives and turned the ball over twice inside the 5-yard line, or else we might be talking about a 30-10 game or, something like that. But then again, I mean, it was hard to fault LSU too much because the defense continued to really impress. And for South Carolina, I mean, besides a handful of big plays, I mean, it just never felt like this team was threatening besides the one point where they had the lead. But, yeah, I think both of these teams just continue to kind of have their offensive struggles. The offensive lines both look pretty bad. And while both teams did break off a few big runs, outside of that, they did struggle to run the football. So I don't know if there's much to take away from this game on either side. I mean, South Carolina has a brutal 5-game stretch coming up. They're going to have to play better. Sellers is going to have to take them over the top if they even want to win one of those 5 games. And then LSU, you're not going to have the ability to leave 10 to 15 points on the board against Texas A&M and against Alabama, Oklahoma. So hopefully it's an isolated incident and you can clean things up, because, I mean, at this point, you're going to start losing games that way.
Yeah, I mean, we said last week that we wanted to see complementary football on both sides of the ball coming off of the bye week. You did see, the running game, the yardage wise was there, but you saw a couple of big plays. Juwan Johnson had that long run that almost ended up in a touchdown. Same with South Carolina. Really, they only had one big play. That was that long touchdown run to get them to 7-3. But really, outside of that, I think LSU's defense, their best performance against a running quarterback, because Trinidad Chambliss a couple of weeks ago was able to get some big runs, but I feel like they really kept Lenore Stellers in check. Comparing last year's game for sure. But South Carolina's receivers just really need to step up, I think, moving forward in the stretch for you. I think that they were pretty much non-existent in this game. I definitely think South Carolina's defensive line is there. Their secondary, Brandon Cease went down with an injury. That was definitely a brutal blow for that secondary. But you saw Garrett Nussmeier, a healthy Garrett Nussmeier, you could say there's still some mistakes by him in that game. But you did see some more deep throws. You honestly could have had some more points if Chris Hill, caught a football. But that was, a beautiful throw by Garrett Nussmeier, just a drop by him. So, yeah, I definitely agree with your sentiment. I think that this definitely could have been like a 34-10 type of game. LSU definitely left a lot of points, starting in after, they went 3 and out, they got the fumble, and you settled for, a short field goal, which, if you had a couple of ways that you could have gotten to the end zone, you won't be able to do that against some of these better teams like the Vandy and the Texas A&M coming up on your schedule. But overall, I don't really take anything from this, to be honest with you. I just think that
Kind of a dud.
yeah, it's kind of a dud from both sides, to be honest with you. It was a very ugly game. If you're in attendance, that's probably why half of the stadium decided to just dip, maybe just beat the traffic. Who knows? But
Let's talk about that, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sidebar on that. I mean, come on. You obviously like college football. You spent tons of money to be there. I spent a lot of money to sit in the upper deck. So I know that some people spend a lot more money to sit in the good seats. You like college football. You've been doing it for years. Nothing's changed in Baton Rouge substantially in the last 10 years traffic-wise. If anything, it's gotten better.
Right.
What possesses you to want to leave a game that is a 7-point game with 5 minutes left? I mean, how spoiled are we that we take that for granted? Like, just watch into the game. You're going to have to sit in some traffic. Find a parking situation that works for you and your schedule and your route home, and deal with a little bit of traffic. I mean, I don't get that. I mean, we can't keep, hyping up Tiger Stadium to be the best atmosphere in the SEC when you've got a perfectly fine SEC game here and you're leaving early either because of traffic or because you don't like how the offensive coordinator is calling the game. Like that, that's beyond me, but I don't know. Maybe that's just where the sport's trending. I don't think it's only an LSU problem. I get the traffic, but I think people are overselling it, and I think that it's just a spoiled fan base at the moment. And I know I sound like
I think the only excuse to leave early, man, if it's not an 8 p.m. game or later, sit your ass in the seat. I don't really care. Like you mentioned, it's a 7-point game. It's not like LSU was blowing this team out by any chance. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because we'd be
there's your rant.
Yeah, there's be another rant. I'm not going to be ranting. We're going to try and keep positive as long as I can on the show because I have some other things going on in the sports world where I could get it on a rant, but we'll say that for another time. All right, we'll get into our Week 7 pick'em results. Wade and Chet were agreements in pretty much every game. 6-1, 6-1. I went with a flyer pick. I'm trying to remember who I went against. Oh, yeah, that's right. I picked Mizzou. Yeah, I picked Mizzou. It was close. But no cigar. 5-2. I'll take it. But Wade and Chet are on the top of the leaderboard. Heading into after our week number 7 picks, we'll see how the rest of the crew does heading into week number 8, which we will get to later on in the show. But for now, we will get into our SEC teams in the AP Top 25 poll. We're going to update this pretty much throughout the duration of this college football season. And it's all pretty much the same teams that you saw last week, but it's just shuffled. Number 4 now is Texas A&M, and number 5 is Ole Miss. We didn't talk about Ole Miss, but we will get to it whenever we do talk about Ole Miss moving forward. They did not look great whatsoever against Washington State this past week. Maybe looking too much ahead against Georgia, but still, I mean, you got to show a better fight than that. Number 6 now is Alabama, moving up after their big road win against Mizzou. Number 9 is Georgia. Number 10, LSU to round out the top 10 for the SEC teams. And then Tennessee moved up a couple of spots after their win against Arkansas. They won 34-31. They were up 34-17, and Arkansas had that late fourth quarter comeback, but ended up falling short in that game. Oklahoma falls all the way down to number 14. Missouri only falls 2 spots from 14 to 16. And Vandy, on the bye week, moves up to the number 17 with all the chaos happening inside of the top 10. So what do you your overall takeaways? Who's too high? Who's too low? I know you want to talk about Ole Miss because you were one of the first ones to point out what was happening in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think my SEC fantasy performance will reflect how that game went. I haven't even looked at the stats, but yeah. I can't imagine it was great. That team came out flat, but I do think they were just looking ahead to Georgia. To be honest, I mean, you open as a 32-point favorite. You're playing at 11 a.m. against a weird team that took a lead on you because of a double quarterback flea flicker. Like, that stuff's not going to happen going forward in the SEC. So I'll give them a pass, but Texas A&M is the team I want to highlight because they had every opportunity for a trap game against Florida. You know, Florida was coming off a big win against Texas, and they shut it down. I mean, they just didn't let them have much of a chance. I know Florida did come out with some zip on offense, but A&M took that game over, and the defense, I think, is getting better. Mm-hmm. Likewise with Alabama. I mean, I think that defense is getting better too. So I'm more impressed with those teams. Georgia, I mean, they look very beatable, as does LSU. Tennessee, if they were playing anybody besides Arkansas, probably would have lost. And on the bottom row, I think we both agree that Oklahoma's trending badly. And Vanderbilt and Missouri, I mean, they're good teams, but I just don't think they're contenders at this point.
Yep, so that is your SEC teams in the AP poll heading into week number 8. We will keep track of that moving forward. So speaking of SEC fantasy, let's go ahead and get into that week 7 results. The score so far has been lopsided. So Wade, we will see, even with your Ole Miss blunder, it wasn't really a bad pick. I mean, Trinidad Chambliss against, Washington State defense has been giving up a lot of points over the past couple of weeks. But Wade, take over your team and how they did, because looking at your overall skill positions left to be desired in your defense, you can just blame Ole Miss for this.
Yeah, Trinidad Chambliss, I mean, I guess he did his part. Even if Ole Miss won this game big, I don't think you would see much of an improvement here beyond the 268 yards. You knew that they weren't going to show anything too special going into the Georgia game, so I'll take the quarterback performance. Torrey Blaylock, I mean, this was just kind of game script. Oklahoma fell down. They couldn't really run the football to start with, and they definitely weren't in a position to run it late. They had to throw it. I think this would have gone better if Mateer sat out. And if for SEC fantasy and for the game, I just – that's hard. I mean, you got a Heisman candidate on your roster. He says he can play. Doctors say he can play. But as a coach, I think you got to just – he just got to bite the bullet and go with the backup, because I think it just really threw off this whole game. And Blaylock was a victim to that with just 37 yards. Mario Craver, this is a good game for him, 77 yards. Florida does have a decently tough secondary, so I'll take it there. And then the Ole Miss defense, this was the head scratcher of the week. I mean, it wasn't like it was 345 garbage time yards or anything like that. Like, they were getting beat most of the game. And this defense definitely looked like it regressed. So just enough to stay in the positives. Everybody canceled out except for Blaylock's 37 there. So
you match Blaylock.
I've had worse, but I've had a lot better, and I suspect you had better.
I tell you what, you're probably gonna be pretty mad at what I'm about to say. What happened to Mario Craver? So you know what happened on the first Lily throw? Mario Craver got 64 yards, almost had a touchdown. Only had 13 yards the rest of the game. I don't know what Texas A&M did the rest of the game, but for some reason Mario Craver just wasn't involved in this offense. Maybe it was just a game script that Florida just really wasn't close with Florida at this point. But it was just odd. I thought that after that, we were going to come here on Monday's show, and I was going to be like, okay, Amari Craver is going to have like 200 yards, but nope. One big play, a couple of other catches, and that was it from Amari Craver.
Rashid Shaheed of the SEC.
Yeah, pretty much. 37 yards. We'll see if that holds up as we go on to my team. It was a pretty slow start by Joey Aguilar in this game, and whenever Arkansas was fighting back, Tennessee had to put up some more points to really take this game over. So 280 yards total. Most of those came on the ground. He had like 60 rushing yards and he was a little bit over 200 passing yards to get to 280. Caden Durham, thank you very much. I'll take that. 87 yards total from LSU running back. So this was definitely the week to pick Caden Durham, and he just thrives against South Carolina. He had a phenomenal game last season against the Gamecocks, and once again, and then Jeremy Bernard, I don't even know what happened. Like Ryan Williams didn't even get targeted once in this game. He had 0 yards, so it was actually like a freshman being the leading receiver for the Crimson Tide. So Jeremy Bernard, 20 yards. And Georgia's defense, like I mentioned, looking very rough in the first half, was able to respond. They only gave up 13 total yards in the second half against Auburn. So as crazy as that sounds, but 278 yards and 109. And once again, I win the week to move it to 6-1. So we will see, Wade, you can get on the board here in SEC Fantasy week number 8. But before we get into our weekly draft, just to clarify on some of the rules. So our roster, 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, and 1 defense. And once we get to the bowl season, that will double. And you cannot draft the same player twice in back-to-back weeks. So say if I drafted Joey Aguilar this week, I could not draft him in week number 8. And once you draft the defense, you can't use them again. So 7 weeks, 7 defenses have been used. So we have been keeping track of that throughout the duration of the season, and our 8th defense will be picked coming up. So let's go ahead and get into our quarterbacks heading into this slate. DJ Lagway of Florida got a big-time matchup against Mississippi State, and Ty Simpson of Alabama will be the first time that I use the Alabama quarterback. The first time I believe DJ Lagway has been on the program, which has been shocking. I think that we were pretty high on Lagway. But what do you like about Lagway's matchup against the Bulldogs defense?
Yeah, sorry, guest picker Austin. But I'm going to go with DJ Lagway, not because I think he just picks on Mississippi State. I just think the game script in this one, I think it could get a little chippy, a little high scoring. I think there's big play potential here for the Florida Gators. Likewise for Mississippi State if they can capitalize on it. So I think it's a good opportunity to get Lagway in here. I hadn't used a Gator yet either, so I was eyeing Baugh, the running back. I think he could have a good game too. But I had another trick up my sleeve there, so I'm going with Lagway. Just kind of hoping that one becomes a little bit of a shootout.
I think that this was a no-brainer quarterback pick for me. Ty Simpson, this is a really good matchup against the Tennessee defense that has been struggling. I just saw Taylor Green throw it all over this Tennessee defense, and I think that Ty Simpson, he's really been red hot, so I'm riding with the hot hand. I think that this is going to be a get-back game, too. Tennessee defeated Alabama last season, so this is just another revenge factor game for the Crimson Tide, this offense. I think that Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard is going to bounce back. I think this whole entire, it wasn't really a complete game for Alabama on the offensive side of the ball. I think that Jam Miller, we'll see if he's healthy or not. He did get knocked out in that game. But I think that Ty Simpson is just going to continue a dominant run there. So Simpson and Lagway are the quarterbacks. Now let's go on to the running backs. In another week without Ahmad Hardy, the streak is now to 3 weeks. But you're going to go with a guy that's coming off a really good performance against Oklahoma defense and Quintervion Wisner. I picked him early on in the season. Looks like you're picking him for the first time. I'm also picking Kawan Lacey. I know you took him a couple of weeks back, so he's back on the program. So talk about Wisner's matchup, and a very good matchup against one of the worst teams in the SEC.
Yeah, I think if you're Texas, you got to go with what just won you a ball game, and that's a heavy dose of Wisner. I agree. I think he's been playing through an injury for who knows how long, and maybe he's finally healthy for this team because they need him. I thought Texas was going to have the best 1-2 punch in the SEC at running back, and it would take some pressure off of Arch Manning, but honestly, it's been non-existent, and it's put Arch Manning in a situation where he's had to step it up and be the running game as well as develop as a passer. So if this Texas team has started to establish the run, I think it could be huge for their offense, and it's a great opportunity to do it against Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kawan Lacey of Ole Miss. This is a tough matchup. It's a road test against a very talented Georgia defensive front. But Kawan Lacey has really been consistent. It feels like every game he's putting up 100 yards. I think if Ole Miss, if they want to stay close and potentially win this game against Georgia, Kawan Lacey and this rushing offense going to have to complement Trinidad Chambliss, because this is definitely going to be one of the most toughest environments that Chambliss and this offense is going to be walking into this season. So give me Lacey. Now let's move on to the receivers. We are just going back and forth. We've had a lot of A&M receivers and a lot of Alabama receivers so far this season. So you're going back to the well here with Jeremy Bernard of Alabama. We haven't picked Casey Concepcion, the other Texas A&M wide receiver. Mario Craver has already been on the show 2 times. I figured let's give Casey some love. He's, very good at being a punt returner. Obviously, those yards won't count. But I definitely think that he could have a big game against a very soft secondary of Arkansas. We're talking about Jeremy Bernard and how does he bounce back against the Tennessee defense?
Yeah, same kind of stuff you were saying with Ty Simpson. I think Bernard's got a good chance to bounce back here. Surprisingly, and maybe something we haven't talked about enough is just Ryan Williams has not been an alpha receiver for this Alabama team. Bernard has kind of been, I guess, more consistent as their number one. So I think he gets his here. I mean, presumably he'll be up against Tennessee's second best corner. And honestly, there hasn't been a lot of positives for this Tennessee secondary. So I think it's a good chance for Bernard to get close to 100 yards.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Concepcion, same thing about Arkansas's defense. I mean, if you watch Arkansas throughout the duration of the season, it hasn't really been great. So I think that Craver and Concepcion could easily get over 75 yards each and have a really big game, because I think that Texas A&M's offense has really been rolling. You could have went with Moss in this matchup, Ruben Owens, but I think that the receivers are going to get fed in this matchup. What could be a high-scoring game, because Arkansas's offense has really been playing well, but A&M's defense has been doing that as well. But Bernard and Concepcion are the wide receivers for the week. And now we'll go on to the defenses. We just saw these two teams face off on the field, Oklahoma and Texas. You're going to go with Oklahoma's defense against South Carolina. I'm going Texas against Kentucky. That was my first pick that I did in the draft. So talk about Oklahoma's defense and how they can bounce back against the Gamecocks.
Well, I know I just talked a lot of negative things about Oklahoma, but I do think that this is a winnable game on the road against South Carolina. South Carolina does struggle offensively as well. So no matter how it shakes out, I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game. And I think that right now South Carolina is very one-dimensional. They do not have, like, an alpha receiver at all. And honestly, they kind of struggle to run the football too. So until the team can put it all together, I'm going to pick against them here on SEC Fantasy and take Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Texas. To be honest, let's be honest with you, this is the best matchup of the week. I mean, I wasn't really comfortable with every other defenses, because I think there's going to be a ton of points in every other of the matchup. Already picked Oklahoma, so Texas was my best option against Kentucky. Now, can we see a sleepy Texas team? Sure. I mean, like who wants to go to Lexington after you just beat down Oklahoma, and then you'll have a matchup after Kentucky against Mississippi State. That'll be another road game. So Texas has a lot of road games. They won't be back in Austin for the next couple of weeks here. So a tough stretch coming up. So we'll see if Texas can survive that. But the way the Texas defense has honestly been playing outside of that Florida game, they've been one of the more impressive defenses in the conference. So I'm going to trust them in a road environment against Kentucky. So let's go ahead and go to our Week 8 games and pick them. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here because we will bring in our special guest of the night. Like I mentioned, I did tip my cap here, and so did Wade. It is a Mississippi State Bulldog fan, which we haven't had one of these on our show. Yes, they do actually exist, folks. But we're going to bring in Austin. He's a good one,
guys. He's a good one.
We're going to bring in Austin. Austin, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, guys. How are y'all doing?
We're doing good. So, talking about Mississippi State, coming into the season, you went 2-10 last season. What are your expectations and how you think the team has been faring so far?
I'm going to say we had a rocket hot start to the season. We did everything that we needed to do as far as coming out of the gate, getting out of conference play undefeated, or out of, non-conference play
Yeah.
undefeated, and, opening ourselves up to be in a good position to start conference play. Now, when we started conference play, we found out our first main fault, which is that we can't finish, right? And so lost in overtime at home to Tennessee. It was barely a home game. I'll get into kind of, why that affects my pick with Mississippi State's game against Florida this week. But then you have that road loss that was humiliating to A&M. I don't care how good A&M is. That was pathetic. And so, that gives you a lot to think about going into the bye week, and a bye week is a good time if it's used correctly to mend and to heal and to correct what needs to be corrected. So, and again, I'll get more into that with my pick, but I'm not out on Mississippi State football just yet.
Yep. So we will definitely talk about Mississippi State and all the other games as we now enter our Week 8 games and pick them. So this is our second guest picker of the whole entire season. We did have Elise on a couple of weeks ago. So the record to beat is 5-3 or 6-3. I really can't remember how many games we had that week. I'll have to go back and check. We will keep all the standings. Maybe we'll have a prize at the end of the season for our winner. So that is the mark to beat. But let's go ahead and dive into our 11 games. And boy, we're starting off hot here because we have number 10 LSU at number 17 Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt is coming off of the bye week last time that we saw the Commodores. Tough road loss against Alabama last time we saw LSU. A decent home win. Nothing really to sneeze at against South Carolina. So, Austin, you're going to lead us off here. LSU and Vandy, who do you have taking this one in Nashville? Because you talk about being a home game. This is going to feel like a road game for Vanderbilt, even though this is a home game for them.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Going through the rest of my picks for this week, it's very much home game atmosphere in some aspects that determines the game. In this one, I think that's really a lot of what Vanderbilt's going to have to hold on to if they want to have a shot against LSU. But to be completely honest, LSU's loss against Ole Miss, that was a game LSU could have won. LSU has been its own worst enemy for as long as anyone can remember, and that will be the same fact of the matter for long after we're all gone. But, taking that into account, you think about what LSU has when they're taking it on the road to Vanderbilt, and I've got to go with LSU coming out on top in this one. I that's just my gut on this one. You could make a case for either or, but I've got to go with LSU on this one.
All right, starting off with LSU. Wade, who you got in this one?
Yeah, I agree, Austin. I mean, I think LSU's got to get out of their heads and just go out there and play solid football for 4 quarters. Garrett Nussmeier can't be second guessing himself in his, 5th year on campus against a really young, inexperienced South Carolina defense. But I think he's going to have a chance to do that against Vanderbilt. I think this is just one where the skill gap is still there. Vanderbilt might be the more sound team right now. They might even have the more sound quarterback play, but I think when you line up all 22 starters, I mean, let's be real. LSU's got the talent, and I think they'll put it together and win this one, correcting on a few of those mistakes that did cost them the Ole Miss game and did almost cost them the game against South Carolina. So give me the Tigers.
Well, wait, you just gave Diego Papi and Vanderbilt locker room the soundbite that they need, the talent gap. So there you go. That's why it's always tough picking Vandy because Diego Papi, he's a dog on that side. He's going to want to beat it because you remember last year's game, but honestly, it really felt like it was never close. The score is closer than it really said. LSU really dominated this one from start to finish. So Vandy is definitely going to want some give back what LSU did to this team. Vandy is coming off of the bye week, so they had an extra week to prepare. for this game. LSU coming off of another, grinded out game. So I think this is going to be another grinded out game here. This is going to be a low scoring game. Both defenses have really been playing well. I think that Vandy's defense has really been the story. Everybody wants to talk about Cedric Alexander and Diego Pavia, but this Vandy defense has really been playing well this season. So I think it's going to be like 23-20 type of game, but give me LSU. I think that the road team gets it done. I don't think they're going to be looking ahead. No one's going to be like overlooking Vanderbilt anymore like they did like last season and pretty much for like the past decade. I think that Brian Kelly and company will get things going, and look for Garrett Nussmeier, to not really bounce back, but I think that he's going to limit the mistakes that he had in that South Carolina game. So give me LSU. And yeah, good. Congratulations, Vandy. You're probably going to win the game because we're all picking LSU. This never goes well, but we're all rolling with the Tigers to get things done in Nashville.
That's the underdog.
Yeah, that's the underdog. Vandy is a 2.5-point favorite, which I feel like hasn't happened ever. But we'll move on to the next game, another early morning. Number 14, Oklahoma at South Carolina. South Carolina and Oklahoma desperately need a win because these are two teams pretty much in a gauntlet at this point. Oklahoma just started the gauntlet. South Carolina has been in the gauntlet. So, Austin, you're going to lead us off. Are you going to roll with the home team or go with the Sooners?
I'm going to tell you this. When I was first looking at this game and my gut was having a pick, I immediately went to Oklahoma. But upon further reflection, you've got to look at what these two teams have been through so far this season. When you're looking at seeing Oklahoma see that record of 5-1, looking at who they've lost to, that game against Texas, that butt whooping against Texas. I mean, you've got that in your history. You look at what South Carolina's got in their rearview mirror. They've lost to now 17 Vanderbilt. That was a pretty bad black eye right there. 7-31 at home. And then they lose to then ranked 23. Now they've increased to 16 Missouri. They lost 20-29. That was on the road. That's a game that I think that they could have honestly won. I think that road factor for them played a big role in them losing that game. So that's a game that I think they really could have won. Of course, they beat Kentucky. Who's not going to take turns doing that? I mean, come on now. That's easy. And then, you have the most recent loss to LSU, who was ranked 11, then moved up to ranked 10. They lost 10-20 on the road. That's a game they could have possibly won. I mean, taking all of these things into account and seeing what Oklahoma has faced with Michigan and Auburn and taking it all into account, you got to think with that home factor that is so important right now, I think South Carolina comes away with it.
All right.
So I'm going Cox on this one.
All right, roll with the Gamecocks. Wade, this feels like a big one for both these teams. It feels like whoever loses this game, their season's pretty much over at this point.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams are on a ridiculously hard 5-game stretch, and they just happen to intersect with each other this week. I don't know. Austin's recap of the Gamecock season makes me want to flip to Oklahoma, but I'm going to go with Gamecocks as well. I do think the home field.
Change.
Go either way.
Okay, I guess I'm going Oklahoma.
Here we go. We're doing an exercise. Just act like the OU looks like a Gamecock, with a C.
I don't know which one I picked. I think I probably picked Oklahoma out of spite after watching South Carolina play football.
Yeah, I did give you like the picks. Like we do it a day after, so maybe you had spite. To South Carolina so far. Do you have any more that you wanted in your analysis, or am I good to go?
I'll just say this. I do think that South Carolina can catch some magic at home. I think it comes down to I don't think John Mateer is fully healthy yet. And until he is, I'm going to have a hard time picking Oklahoma because, I mean, they look very one-dimensional. So that's where my head's at now. But, I mean, South Carolina didn't give us much to pick on. So we could see this go either way.
Well, I'm not regretting my pick because I'll just put up we're all rolling South Carolina, so maybe the upset isn't happening anymore. But I agree with you. I think that Austin said it already. I mean, it's just body blow after body blow that South Carolina has been doing. I mean, the last time they were at home, they got crushed by Vandy. So I think that South Carolina is just due. at this point, like, do they even have a good win on the season? Because the first game against Virginia Tech, it looked like a good win on paper. And now Virginia Tech doesn't even have a head coach, and they're not really a good football team. So I think that South Carolina, at home, the factor of Oklahoma, the way that John Mateer in this offense has looked. I think that this is Lenore Sellers. This is, a save your season game at this point. So I think that he's going to take over this game, even though against the Oklahoma defense has really been good. But we're all rolling with the Gamecocks.
Nah, give me OU.
Okay. All right, you're gonna go back to OU.
I picked them in SEC fantasy. I remember now. Okay, it's all coming together.
All right, so you're gonna say the graphic for us. So we got one Oklahoma. All right, the upset's back on track then. So we're all rolling. One Oklahoma and 3 on South Carolina. All right, let's go on to the next game. Number 4, Texas A&M at Arkansas. Yes, it is now at Arkansas. It's no longer in Jerry World. Thank God. Now they need to do that with Florida and Georgia, and all things will be right in the world. All right, so A&M and Arkansas, it feels like another sandwich game for Texas A&M. People say, like, is this going to be the week that A&M loses? Austin, I'm going to say is this the week that A&M loses?
No, this is not. This is not the week that A&M loses. Y'all, let's be real. Arkansas and Mississippi State are the 2 ugly stepchildren of the SEC right now. I mean, it's sad. Yeah, but Arkansas also has a fast offense.
They do.
I mean, so every team has its plus and its minus, but neither of us are really built that well right now. And I can make a case for us, like I will when we get to that pick. But y'all, I mean, A&M's undefeated for a reason right now. They have just been plowing, taking care of business. And they're just going to keep doing that. Now, granted, they've got a tougher road to hoe moving forward, but this is Arkansas. This is just another bump in the road for them. Yeah, it's at Arkansas. Let's see if that plays a factor into it. But, y'all, I mean, for Texas A&M at Arkansas, give me A&M all day.
The way this rivalry game feels like it's always crazy as that Arkansas-Ole Miss rivalry. So do you have something happening in Arkansas? Do you think that Texas A&M continues their undefeated season?
It is always a little crazy, and I always get tempted to go with Arkansas in this one, but it's usually because A&M's not as good as they are now, and it's usually because Arkansas, has something to play for, and so I just don't think it's in the cards this year. I'm going to go with A&M. I actually did not know this was moved to the campus sites. I'm quite all right with that. I think it could make for some fun.
You should be on that.
I don't know. I guess so. No more neutral sites for Arkansas because, I mean, I guess there were some years where they were playing one neutral site in Little Rock, and then if the home game, I guess they never really had a true home game with A&M, but I'm sure somebody was designated as the home team. So there was times when Arkansas was losing 2 home games a year. So I can see why they would want to get out of that. And I do think it makes for some interesting travel, but not with this team.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, another big-time matchup. Arkansas, after the Sam Pittman that they got fired, I think that a lot of people are saying, okay, this Arkansas team is just going to lay down. But with Bob Petrino now being the interim head coach, you did see some fight in Knoxville, even when they got down 17. Taylor Green, that offense was able to respond. So I think that, this is going to be one of the best offenses that Texas A&M's defense is going to be playing all season because Taylor Green is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the SEC. I can attest to that. I've played 16 games with him in our dynasty that we did. But Texas A&M, they got a big one coming up. So maybe could they be looking ahead? But I think that this is just a way too talented Texas A&M team. Though I do think that this is going to be close. I think a lot of people are going to be picking at the Aggies just to blow this team out. Arkansas at home, paired with the way that they've been playing. I know the defense has really been lacking, but I wouldn't be shocked if we look in the fourth quarter and Arkansas has a late lead and then A&M takes the lead and breaks the hearts of every Arkansas fan there. So all rolling with the Aggies so far. Will Chet do the same? No, he's not. The upset specialist has arrived as he's
humble.
Pig Suey to beat the Aggies there. So he pretty much said A&M, this is their time to be humbled. So we'll see if the Aggies are up to the challenge there. So that's another discrepancy that we have on the board there. As we'll go on to our SEC Talk game of the week. Number 5, Ole Miss at number 9, Georgia. Austin, you definitely have some hatred between both of these teams. Georgia, you have some storylines there. Ole Miss, obviously, being a Mississippi State fan. So how do you have this one playing out with your hatred on both sides?
Well, I'm going to say this. Georgia's been fighting to get in my good graces, and that is partially because of a reason that I no longer like the University of Troy, and a totally different reason as to why I didn't go and run for them on scholarship in college. But in any case, let's look at the other side of the aisle here for a second as a Mississippi State fan would. Let's look at number 5, Ole Miss. I want to read y'all a story, and I call it Ole Miss's 2025 football schedule. You've got 4 total games on the road. You've got some seriously easy stuff at home. I mean, you're starting off your season whooping Georgia State. You're somehow Kentucky lost to you at home by 7 points. I mean, that's a close game. It's Kentucky. I mean, come on. You're beating Arkansas 41-35. You're beating Tulane 45-10. Then you got what I feel like is your first real test. You got LSU, and that was a game that LSU really could have won there. I mean, they got Washington State. They've got Georgia's going to be a tough game. Oklahoma, I mean, I don't know. The Citadel, you just go down the list looking at this team that they're playing, and you're looking at Mississippi State schedule, and you're like, this is just kind of, crazy. Yeah. Y'all are talking about, we're the best team in Mississippi. We've got it all going on. We can whoop anybody. We want Georgia. We want Bama. We want, Ohio State. We want Lane Kiffin wants to just wreck everybody, take the over, all this stuff. They were going to LSU, and now after LSU, they're thinking they're going to just run everybody. I have bad news for you, Ole Miss. You're going over there. You're going over there to play against the Dogs, the Georgia Bulldogs. Those Dogs. That loss that the Dogs have in overtime, or they beat Tennessee in overtime. They lost to Bama 21-24. That hurts. That has got them just bent all kind of out of shape. And they're just like, we ain't going to let that happen. And they're just going to keep powering through. So, Ole Miss is not really outside of the LSU game that LSU should have won. Come on now. Give me Georgia on this.
Like makes me rage even more. You're trying to make me rant. But you have Georgia, Wade. Both these teams, honestly, coming off of a not so great performances. How do you have this one shaping out on Saturday afternoon? Hey, after Lane Kiffin, moaned about, Georgia, why can't we get a night game? And then we have to go to Georgia. We're going to have to play at night. Well, buddy, you're playing at 2:30. So what's going to be excused out? Go ahead, Wade.
Should be a night game. Come on.
It should be, honestly.
But as it stands, it's still a Georgia home game. This Ole Miss team hasn't really been challenged like this away from their home environment. I think they might have caught a little bit of a break being a day game, but Georgia does play well in this slot.
They do. They're better at 2:30.
Yeah, the night atmosphere didn't really help them against Alabama. Those fans are going to come ready anyways.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Gunnar Stockton's having an underrated season. I think he's done quite enough for Georgia to win some games. And the defense stepped it up when it mattered against Auburn. Ole Miss just looked beatable on Saturday, honestly. If they were playing an SEC game, they might not have that number 5 against their name. So I'm going to go with Georgia at home. I would be more intrigued going with Ole Miss if it was in Oxford, but I can't believe Georgia would lose 2 games back-to-back at home.
Yeah, especially big-time games at home. I don't think that you would see that. They have another one coming up in a couple of weeks when they play Texas. So they have all their big-time tests at home, so they really can't afford to lose this one. But I think I definitely agree with everything that y'all been saying so far. It just feels like, Georgia coming back at home, Ole Miss coming off of a, lousy performance. Maybe they were looking ahead to this matchup. But mind you, the last time that Ole Miss, I know that Ole Miss beat Georgia and Oxford. Last time that these two teams faced off in Athens, Georgia won, 52-17 when El Stetson Bennett was there. So I don't think it's going to be that, but I think that this is a Georgia statement win. I have Georgia win this one pretty convincingly. Ole Miss. I was thinking that Trinidad Chambliss. This ain't obviously you can't really have that excuse at home. Being a D2 quarterback. This ain't no D2 environment that you're walking into. This is going to be, I think, a pissed off Georgia team. They really did not play well at all against Auburn. You could ask every player. We won the game, but we didn't. I think that this is going to be the most complete Georgia team and game that they're going to put together against this Ole Miss team. And I think that Georgia's defense really, doesn't really pitch a shutout, but they're going to put up a statement and give me Georgia by double digits in this one against Ole Miss. And we're all rocking with the Dogs at home against Ole Miss. So now let's go on to our next game, and that features Austin's Mississippi State Bulldogs going into the Swamp to face off against the Florida Gators. So, Austin, what are your overall thoughts heading into this game, and do you have your Dogs pulling off? I don't even want to say the upset because honestly, you might even be the better team than Florida at this point.
I'm going to tell you this right now. This is a very, very crucial game for us, just as much as every other game is a crucial game. Our team has the mentality, like many other successful college football programs, where week in and week out, we're just trying to go 1-0. We're just trying to tackle that next team. I feel like we had a really, really good job of doing that the beginning of this season. Granted, that's really fairly easy to do when you've got the out-of-conference schedule that you have, and then when it comes time to translate that to conference play, you go into that overtime thriller at home against Tennessee. That game, when you lose that game the way that you did, you've got to think about what role did the fans play? What role did coaching play? What role did conditioning play in that? And when you look at those things and you have the time to prepare with that mentality of going 1-0 week to week, then you go and you play on the road in College Station at A&M, and then you have the embarrassment on the field that you have that night. I mean, that game was disappointing to say the least, but it's something that our skill level does not dictate. That score that was put on the board is not, at this point in time in this season, what a Mississippi State fan, and I think that really anybody watching Mississippi State football should come to expect from the history we've seen so far this season, from what we've been able to turn, a new leaf from that previous season going 2-10. And so, when you're looking at coming off of a bye week, you've got to be hopeful. You've got to be hopeful that Florida can catch maybe a bad night's sleep the night before, or maybe things aren't firing on all cylinders for them. Because I'm going to tell you what, if Florida gets hot in the Swamp, it's going to turn into moisty mire down there for the Bulldogs. They're going to have a tough time. But if they can do what they need to do, and I hope they did this past weekend and spend this week getting ready and, finishing things up, doing some tuning, I'll tell you what, this is a big, big turning point for us this season. Because if we can beat Florida, look at what Florida did against Texas. Look what Texas has got to do between now and then when the Bulldogs get them at home. See how that game turns out. Then, going out of that, who knows? Who knows? You got to lock into this one. And I think being a Bulldog hopeful here, I've got to go with my Dogs. I've got to go with them. I'm hopeful. I think that we can do it. I know we're the underdogs, but skill-wise, we've got the ability to do it, and we've got to just lock in and make it happen.
Yeah, well, there's no surprise there that you're going to go with Mississippi State. Wade, are you going to go with him or go with your SEC fantasy quarterback and DJ Lagway?
I mean, how can you not be inspired by that motivational speech right there? I mean, if I'm Blake Shapen, I'm ripping 250 yards on this defense. And I think he can. I think it's going to be a little bit of a shootout, as I alluded to during SEC fantasy. I think both teams have turned some corners, but I think both teams do have some weaknesses. I think that both defenses could be susceptible to some big plays or maybe even some trick plays. I'll say this: if Mississippi State can run the football with Bothwell, this could be a totally different game. But on the flip side, if they let ball, run all over them. I mean, this one could get ugly. I think they're going to keep ball in check, and I think Lagway is going to have to make some plays. Unfortunately for State fans, I think he makes one too many. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be like 34-31, moderately high scoring, but I am going to go with the home team. If it was in Starkville, I might flip.
Well, it was in Starkville last year and saw what happened, but that was a different team. But you're rocking with the Gators there. So, yeah, I think that this is going to be
close. Literally was a different team.
Yeah, I mean, they brought in like 60 transfers, so a lot of new faces on this team. And the key injury in this one, Fluff Bothwell did suffer an ankle injury. We'll see if he's good to go. You hope he's good to go because you're going to need him because that man has been the saving grace for the Mississippi State run game. But I think that the receivers are really going to be the difference maker against Florida. Blake Shapen is a man and a quarterback known for plenty of mistakes. So you saw a lot of them against Texas A&M. That cannot happen against this Florida defensive front that is very talented. This defense from Florida has definitely been saving them. Maybe their bad game was against Texas A&M, but everybody so far has struggled against Texas A&M in that offense. So I think that Mississippi State's defense, though, will respond. If you look at both of their games where they struggled, it was Tennessee and Texas A&M. Those are one of the two best offenses in SEC. Excuse me. Florida, DJ Lagway, they have some talent. To be honest with you, if you stop the running game, Mississippi State will be able to take advantage of this one. And Mississippi State's not only going to win this game, but this will be the game that Billy Napier is fired. You will no longer see Billy Napier on the sidelines. Mississippi State is going to send him off into the sunset, and Florida will be the next major job in college football that will be open. So give me Hail State to win this one in the swamp. And we're going to continue the maroon and white as Chet is also rocking with the Dogs. So wager the Gator.
All right.
How this matchup prevails, we'll definitely be rooting for Austin, Mississippi State, and it's definitely going to be a great game. Is it Saturday afternoon or Saturday at night? What time?
It's an afternoon game.
That's Mississippi State for sure.
I want to say it's at 3:15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, they thrive in 3:15. Last game they played against Tennessee, they played pretty well. So we will definitely stay tuned to this one. But we do have some more games coming up. Number 21, Texas at Kentucky. To be honest with you, it's been like a couple of seconds. Texas. All right. Usually we just do this whenever, like, this feels like Texas is playing an FCS team. That's exactly what it feels like. Sorry, Kentucky. I mean,
being too confident.
I don't care. Have you seen this? Hey, Kentucky always shoves up for one team only. Ole Miss. Let's move on. We can move on. Save our time for this one. Let's move on to a game that's actually going to be close. And that is the third Saturday in October game between number 11 Tennessee at number 6 Alabama. Two high-powered offense going at it. Tennessee, like I mentioned earlier in the show, did knock off Alabama at Knoxville. Now this rivalry game shifts to Tuscaloosa. So both teams really playing well. Austin, who you rolling with in this rivalry game?
I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be a good game. These are two good teams, and we're going to see some fireworks. You know, going and seeing what Tennessee has in the rearview mirror with that loss to Georgia in overtime, that close win against Mississippi State in overtime, and then you've got Alabama with opening the season with that loss to at Florida State. You know, that's heartbreaking. But then you come back out of it and you get into conference matchups and you beat Georgia on the road and you beat Missouri on the road, you're ready to take on what Tennessee has to bring. And with Bama being the home team, just like last year with Tennessee being the home team, I think that is part of what's going to make the difference. And I just think that Alabama's the better team in general on this one. I've got Bama picked on this to win this one.
All right, rolling with the Tide. Wade, who you rolling with, the Vols or Bama?
I got to go with Alabama as well. I mean, I think they're just rounding into form. The Florida State game looks more and more like a fluke. Florida State is trending in the wrong direction. Alabama's trending in the right direction. I mean, I just think that right now the quarterback play with Simpson's been great. I think the defense is arguably the most consistent unit in the country, or damn near close. So I like Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see this one also, getting to a high scoring shootout as it really has been in the past. But Alabama's defense has definitely proven more on Tennessee. But that's not to say that Alabama's defense is going to get tested because Tennessee's got some speed, and Joey Aguilar has really been playing well. But I'm just going to go with Alabama. I think the home environment is just going to be a little bit too much. And give me Alabama continue to roll on. And Chet's going to say a big old not so fast. He's rolling big orange in this one, pulling off the upset. We'll see. Crazy things have always happened in this rivalry game. So we'll see how this one plays out on Saturday night. Now let's move on to the next game, number 16, Missouri at Auburn, Battle of the Tigers. Both teams looking to bounce back after a tough loss. So Battle of the Tigers, are you rocking with Mizzou or Auburn, Doss?
On this game right here, when you're looking at these two teams, you've got Auburn that has been tested, and you got Missouri, and you're looking at their strength of schedule, and you're thinking, who am I going to go with here? I mean, you've got 5-1 Missouri, you've got 3-3 Auburn. I'm going to have to stick with my 3-3s and go with Auburn on this one. This is my upset of the week here. I think that Auburn has had some close games. Yeah. Auburn is working on something here. They're trying to form something, and you can see it catching traction. I think that this Missouri game at home is going to be maybe a turning point for Auburn football.
Yeah, they definitely needed the way that this season to start outside of week number 1 against Baylor, but Baylor has really fallen off of a cliff in the Big 12 play. But Wade, you're pretty high on Missouri. I know that you weren't so high on Auburn heading into the season. We were talking about Auburn versus Georgia. So how do you see this one playing out? It is a night game once again, so that could play into an environment. So who do you have in this one?
Yeah, I mean, Auburn, I think the defense is pretty good, but I think the quarterback play just continues to limit them. We'll see how Missouri responds, though. I mean, you had a heartbreaker at home against Alabama. Now you do have to go on the road to Auburn. But my hot take is Missouri wins this one, and Hugh Freeze beats Florida to the punch and gets fired.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of big-time head coaching jobs opening up across the SEC potentially and nationwide with Penn State opening up. So I think Auburn has to make a gut check decision here, and if they lose another ugly game where they put up like 13 points and Hugh Freeze is supposed to be some sort of offensive genius, then he's got to go.
I think it's a given that at least one of them is going to get fired this weekend because one of them more than likely will be losing this weekend. But yeah, this is a tough one to pick, just for the environment alone. Missouri coming off of a heartbreak. Auburn's coming off of a heartbreak too, a game that they really controlled. Probably should have won, but we'll see. This is a game that if not now, then when are you going to get a win? Which probably won't be never, because this is like, you look at Auburn's schedule, you want to talk about schedules. Auburn doesn't really have too much like easy wins coming up on their schedule. But Missouri, they got a two-headed monster at the running back position. So if you're Auburn's defense, if you can't limit that, then this one's going to be over by the half. Missouri just going to hand the ball off to Ahmad Hardy until that number goes all the way up to 200 yards rushing. But it just feels like this is just, an Auburn spot for them to get a big win at home. They've really been craving it throughout this season. They've had some really tough offensive games. The defense has really been there. They really picked it up the past couple of weeks. They held a really talented Texas A&M team to 16 points and a Georgia offense to 20. So I think they're going to limit Missouri's big plays, and Jackson Arnold will do, just enough. I think it's going to be another low-scoring game. So give me Auburn to pull this one off at home, and Chet's going to go the other direction. So we're 2-2 for the first time on the show. So
there we go, guys.
2 on Mizzou and 2 on Auburn. So we will see who will prevail there. But that is all of our games. I'm going to go ahead and exit out once again. We will send our upset. I guess really, honestly, we need to call you our upset specialist junior at this point, because you had a lot of upsets on this show. But any closing remarks before we send you off?
No, Thanks for having me on, guys, and hopefully all of our teams can get the dubs we need this weekend.
Yeah, I think that
Send
everybody.
Mr. Napier packing, huh?
Let's hope so. I'm going to be waking up with my fingers crossed.
They've been ready since
Saturday.
like last year. So honestly, I think that
I know, but the buyout gets smaller each game.
They're probably hoping that Mississippi State beats them so they can be done with them already. But also, we appreciate you for coming on to the show. We will keep track of your record to see if you have taken over first place in our standings. But we appreciate you for coming on. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night and week in Hail State.
Hail State, boys. Thanks.
All right. All right, we will continue on our show here. It has been a lengthy one, but it is a big-time matchups throughout this slate. But we're going to finish things off here with some hot topics. I think we're going to save the hot topic that I had for the last one that I have. That was going to be a pretty lengthy one. So we're going to save that for next week's show. I just wanted to look back of our preseason SEC picks and where things are standing. So we're going to be saving that for next week's show. But first off, let's talk about Oklahoma. Where do you stand on Oklahoma with this team? I know you talked about their schedule, tough environment that they're going to be facing off against in South Carolina. So do you see this Oklahoma team responding, or do you have them just collapsing over the next, couple of weeks to month?
I think they're trending in the wrong direction, but South Carolina is equally trending in the wrong direction. I think they could eke out a win against South Carolina, but I think this is one of those teams where we look back and we're like, oh, man, they were number 6. Because I think they're trending towards an 8-4 season probably.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they really have to win this one to really save face here, because if they lose back-to-back games, just look at their schedule. I mean, it's just ranked versus ranked matchup out to the South Carolina game. So this is I don't want to say the last easy game that you have on the schedule. It's going to be a tough environment. But the Oklahoma team that a lot of people are hyping on, they were undefeated heading into that matchup. John Mateer was really playing well, but you definitely saw him, it's been 3 weeks since he played football. You could definitely, result into that. I don't think it was just a thumb injury, but I think that the rest, because, he had the week of practice, but he hasn't had that game environment in 3 weeks, and that's definitely going to be affecting you. But, yeah, I just think that Oklahoma, I don't think they're going to fall way off and be 6-6, but I think the more realistic expectations are probably going to be 8-4 for this Oklahoma team. Now to the next question. Do you think that anybody has separated themselves to be the best in the SEC, or do you think that it's just a lot of teams, piled up into being good teams, but do you think that there's 1 or 2 teams, great teams, that are separating themselves so far?
Not yet, but Ole Miss has the chance to do it this week. I mean, if you're able to go in and beat Georgia at home, I think they plant their flag as number 1. However, I went with the Dogs, so I don't think we'll see that happen.
Yeah. I think Texas A&M could definitely separate themselves not only with a win this week, but with a win on the road in Baton Rouge. Because if you look at Texas A&M's schedule, it's pretty favorable. You do have to go on the road to Missouri. You have to go on the road to Texas at the end of the season. But really outside of that, I think the floor at this point for Texas A&M, if they win this weekend, is 10-2. I really don't think that they're going to slip up in many games outside of that. So I think that Texas A&M could be one of those teams. Alabama, too. I think that they're still undefeated in SEC play. The one loss came outside of the conference. So I think that those are the 2 teams that haven't really separated themselves, but definitely have a chance to that over the next couple of weeks. Now let's move on to the next one. James Franklin, if you missed it already, if you're a big college football fan, James Franklin was fired from Penn State, a big buyout coming his way. So that poses the question, could James Franklin make his way back to the SEC? Because if you weren't familiar, before we went to Penn State, James Franklin took over for Vandy and really was a consistent winner at Vandy. They made a couple of bowl games, ranked. So could you see with all these openings potentially open up in the SEC, could he make his way back to the conference?
I think it's definitely plausible. I mean, I think he's a good coach. Probably just the relationship with Penn State got a little stale. Honestly, could get a little crazy. I mean, let's say this first. I think he's going to take some time off. I mean, there's no incentive to work. He's going to get this whole buyout from Penn
Getting
State.
a payday. How do you have to coach?
But let me ask you this. If Vanderbilt finishes the season strong, I'm not saying win the SEC or whatever, but let's say they go 8-4, maybe that seems realistic, maybe 9-3. We've already seen a lot of coaching positions open up. I know that Clark Lee's a Vanderbilt alum, but I think it's only a matter of time before Vanderbilt can't hold on to him. Yeah. He's their next big coaching prodigy. Who would be better than to bring back James Franklin to Nashville? I mean, I think it's a low expectation, kind of good fit place. I mean, I think a place like Auburn or Arkansas could be interested as well. But we'll just have to see. I think the answer is yes down the road, though, for sure. He's done it before.
Yeah, I think if it was going to be this year's cycle, I think that Arkansas would be the number one fit there. I think that, obviously it depends how Bob Petrino does, because they're giving him pretty much a test year. If he passes it, he already has one loss against a tough Tennessee team. I think he's going to have to get a couple of big wins there in between to really save his job, because Arkansas, they got a lot of boosters. They got Walmart, they got Tyson Money, and, they can, I think that James Franklin, it's not like he was a very consistent winner at every program that he's been so far. It's just the expectations at Penn State weren't met, especially this year with all the expectations. You made it all the way to the national semifinal against Notre Dame. You pretty much had all your offense coming back. You lost some on your defense, but were able to complement that with the transfer portal. You were preseason number 2. It was just high, lofty expectations, and, that narrative that he can't win the big games. Well, this season, not only can he win the big game, but he also lost the games that he was favored by 20-plus points. So it really just crumbled over. It's just crazy that, like a couple of weeks ago, Penn State was rocking and rolling. They were in the whiteout. They had that lead in overtime against Oregon. And just like that, you're without a job in college football. It's just the craziness of the sport. I think with all the teams, I don't think Auburn would do that. I think Auburn just at this point, they can't just like swing and miss at this point. They have to get a proven guy. I mean, James Franklin could definitely be that. But I definitely, Arkansas.
I don't know if they can afford it.
Yeah, they can't afford it. I think Arkansas would be the school that I would point at. And even outside the SEC, maybe Virginia Tech looks at Franklin.
That would be a good hire.
I wouldn't say Oregon State. I don't think that he falls all the way down to those ranks. But those two jobs would be like my top two that I could see James Franklin take over.
Wisconsin?
Yeah, Wisconsin too. It depends. Maybe if Matt Rule takes a job at Penn State, does James Franklin swap and go to Nebraska? I don't know. But I mean, Arkansas, if he does go to the SEC, that would be my pick. If you have any Arkansas fans, let me know your thoughts on that. If you like it, if you don't, I mean, anything's better than what you have with Sam Pittman in the past couple of seasons. But that's going to be it for our show there for SEC Talk, a loaded Week 8 slate. So definitely excited to watch a full slate. I mean, we have a ranked matchup in the conference at 11 a.m., and we got some good games the rest of the week. And we also have some really nice games outside the conference, too. So, loaded slate. So, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. We thank Austin, another guest picker. We'll continue to have guest pickers throughout the duration of the season. It just really depends on the slate. The Week 8 slate was good enough to have one of those. So, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your week and the weekend. And we'll see you back next year for SEC Talk Week number 9.